Auburn falls to the Cal Golden Bears at home by the score of 21-14. And a bit of a shocker, the Cal Bears win, getting revenge for last year's nail biter. Let's talk about it. This is your post-game reaction show, a.k.a. your post-game reaction show. Let's get into it. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. As is typically the case, we'd love for you to start the stream off by smashing the like button. Again, we say this for us, not for the performance on the field. That is not you smashing the like button is not contingent upon you expressing pleasure for what you saw out there on the field tonight. But we would appreciate your efforts to help keep our engines running. Hopefully we will continue to improve and not have backslides. Anyway, this is a post-game reaction show. These are initial reactions, impressions, discussion points, statistics, all of that. Every time after a loss, especially ones like these, we go through this. This is a bit of a therapy session. I know you guys don't want to spend a ton of time on the stats, so we may not do that. It may be very heavy on addressing major storylines, comments, questions, things like that. So we'll see where the night takes us. Want to try to make this as entertaining, but also as maybe helpful as possible in moving forward with all of this. So let me go ahead and address a couple things at the start here. If all you are here to do is to complain about a player, a coach, in a way that you would never say to their face, this is not the stream for you. This may not even be the channel for you. Probably shouldn't say that, but I'm just going to be upfront with you. Now, what that does not mean is that we can certainly have very honest, constructive discussions about what happened out there. But just as a kind of, maybe consideration, if you can't handle that, this may not be the place for you. But we're certainly going to talk about those things tonight. And I know where that major storyline is, where most of y'all's focus is going to be tonight. So we're going to talk about that. I want to start here because I do need to do a better job about this when we lose. I want to make sure that I congratulate the Cal Bears on a hard-fought win. Came into one of the toughest places to play. And basically, they did not have their way, but they certainly did enough to get the job done here. Some would argue that Auburn did enough to help them in that manner, which could the case be made. But the fact of the matter is the Cal Golden Bears come into Jordan-Hare and get the win. That's the facts. That's it. There are some discussions about things that did or didn't happen that may have assisted in that area. We can certainly have. But the reality of it is they won. So congratulations to the Golden Bears. And I want to make sure that we are clearly saying that for any Bear fans that want to stop by, and yes, to be petty, but that you're not going to say that we don't give you credit where credit is due. So where do we go from here? And I've seen a lot of y'all's messages already in the pre-chat before we were able to get on here. Thank you for your patience, by the way. It's always a little bit of a hassle and struggle to get going live here from where we do. Thank you for your patience. And I see a lot of them now. And to be frank, I'm not going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but we'll get there. Well, maybe it'll come back to me. I do see that we have a super chat that was given so that I don't dodge something, which is a very interesting tactic, but thank you for the super chat, by the way. I won't dodge it, certainly, because, I do have an obligation to honor that, so it's not dodging it, but I will certainly talk about it. So thank you for the support, though. So let me talk about first, before we read what he wants there. If you are someone tonight that is saying that Peyton Thorne is the only problem with this offense, you are 100% wrong. If you are someone that is saying that Peyton Thorne isn't the problem at all, you are 100% wrong as well. There are clear problems that Peyton Thorne showed tonight, which is really weird, considering we seemed like we were heading in a direction that was very positive. But what isn't what is a fact is that the coach is going to put out the person who has earned and who is the best option out there based on what they have seen thus far. And that to this point has been Peyton Thorne. Will that change after this game? It most certainly might. I would say that this is a performance very much worthy of reevaluating what's going on. And that is not me calling for him to be benched anyway. That is simply me saying, wow, 4 picks. Certainly need to look at a few of those. What's the issue here? But there are more nuanced things that we can get to in just a little bit. I'll try not to bite it all off in one chunk. So let's address what Raw Dog wants us to read. Again, thank you for the super chat. He says, "You're not dodging this one. I'll give you my money for your apology to me. You defended Peyton Thorne in your comments against me for over a year now. I've said it to you for a year plus, and I would say it to Frost is what he's saying face. So again, thank you for the super chat. I would encourage you to think about it this way. You came here to gloat about your team losing. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. It isn't. It really isn't. In fact, it's kind of sad. Not dodging it. We're talking about it. And I'm still going to defend Peyton Thorne because he's a member of that team. And he's a member of the team that I support. And as long as he is out there on the field, the coach's job is to win the game. That's literally what they're paid to do. If he's trotting out there every single time that I may or may not want him to, obviously there's a reason behind it. So I will continue to defend Peyton Thorne as long as he is trots out. I will defend him regardless as a member of the team. When he trots out there as the starting quarterback, if that continues, he's got my full support because he has the coach's stamp of approval. Now, if that changes this week or next week or whatever, same thing applies to Hank, to Holden, to Walker, to Sam Jackson. Anybody want to go to Sam Jackson? I haven't seen anybody say that yet. That applies across the board. So I would highly encourage you, Roz Dog, to really reconsider your approach. I do appreciate the super chat. If you've got an issue with me defending someone, maybe a direct message is the best route to go and not to do this, because you certainly wouldn't say these things to Hugh Freeze's face. So no dodging. Again, thank you for the super chat. Let's see here. Anything. And so the main thing here is if you want something brought up on this stream, you're going to have to bring something of substance to the table other than I hate Peyton Thorne's guts or I hate Hugh Freeze's guts or something like that. We can certainly talk through some of the angles of that. WT, let's see here. Does being a member of the team preclude being able to critically evaluate how they are playing? Is not gloating or being a Debbie Downer to the team as a whole. Yeah, no, I don't think it's a bad thing to be critical in the proper way, constructively critical. Peyton Thorne, I hate your guts, all that kind of stuff, which is essentially what some people are saying, is not the way to go. It's not helpful. It's not solving anything unless y'all are going to go pay Hugh Freeze's buyout. If he continues to put him out there, it doesn't really matter. But we certainly can talk about that. I do have some critiques of Peyton Thorne, but we're just at the start of this conversation tonight. But people, I know much like Roz Dog did, they just came here to gloat and to try to point at someone for being supportive of somebody, especially when a lot of people are not being supportive. You can be supportive and be critical at the exact same time. It's very capable. Neil, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. No one's saying that. Don't be hyperbolic. Oh, Lord, we got a Bama fan in the chat. I knew you were going to stop by. I knew Micah was going to stop by. Hey, USF. Y'all will kill him. But anyway. Megan says Thorne was a big problem tonight, and the O-line was not what they were last week. 100% agree with that. Thorne was a problem tonight. The offensive line was also an equally big problem tonight. A very big problem. So let's talk through that a little bit. Let's talk through the Thorne interceptions, especially. Everybody's going to have their own opinions. I know most of you come here are going to probably already assume that I look for reasons to defend him. I really don't, but I try to look at things very critically to see where the actual fault lies. Let's talk about, and I've thought about it and already talked about it with a few other people too. Interception number 1 tonight. Let me go back because there's so many. Interception number 1 tonight. Gosh, I'm trying to think back to which one that was, because I keep thinking back to the one where he got hit on the shoulder. Interception number 1 tonight. I forget who it was to, but it was a bit of a laser pass, but it hits the wide receiver in the chest because it went through his hands, bounces off into the secondary, and I think it was the safety that picks it off. You could be critical of the pepper that he put on it. Sure, everybody's looking for a reason to do that. The rule is, if it hits you in the hands, I was a wide receiver once. Many of you may have been too. It's your responsibility to catch it. So, while it is his interception, that one, in my opinion, is not Thorne's fault. Number 2, unblocked, and I believe not even like slowed up at all, if I remember correctly, on his backside. Thorne goes to throw the ball, gets his, I think his elbow clipped. Ball goes fluttering to the air. Was it the linebacker or one of the defenders picks it off. Not Peyton Thorne's fault. Pick number 3, in my opinion, nobody's fault but Peyton Thorne. And I instantly yelled it. In fact, you could ask the people that I was sitting with tonight, when he went back to throw it and I saw where he was throwing, I said, that ain't it. That ain't it, man. That ain't going to work. It got picked off. And I believe it was to Cam Coleman, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very frustrating time, so I could have seen the numbers incorrectly. But I believe that was to Cam Coleman, which is funny because what a lot of people who are critical of Thorne would say, well, just throw it up to Cam Coleman. He'll go get it. But he did. He didn't go get it, but it's not Cam Coleman's fault, in my opinion. That was Peyton Thorne. No questions asked, in my opinion. Whether you consider not good opinion or not. Interception number 4. If you looked at the entirety of the play, what you will notice is after Peyton threw the ball, because it was a ball that was clearly being thrown to a wide receiver that was supposed to be making a cut and a throw that was meant to meet somebody somewhere they were supposed to be. As soon as he threw it, he threw up his hands and pointed at the wide receiver and is like, no, why are you going that way? And of course, the ball gets picked off. Now, with that being said, I am still going to attribute that to Peyton Thorne. I think I could make a case that it's not him, but just because some of you guys don't believe that I'm ever willing to criticize him or constructively critical, I'm going to throw that on Peyton, because at that point of the game, you have got to be a smart enough guy to know things are not in your favor. Let's not run anything risky here. And maybe that was the throw he was supposed to do. But he is, at that point, can't be making those mistakes. Even if it wasn't his mistake, ultimately it falls on him. So I'm going tonight, of the 4 interceptions, give half of them to his, which is too many anyway. That is everyone hearing that very clearly? Is anyone hearing that clearly? Ross Dog's paying again. He says, I'm paying tonight because I'm not a troll. I'm an alum. I love Auburn, but it's been over a year now. Nothing has changed. Well, you are certainly, again, thank you so much for the support. No one has said that you are not an alum and you don't love Auburn, but your approach tonight was very poor. And to pay, which again, we appreciate, I would have probably addressed some of the comments that came up at some point from you, or anybody. Just it had nothing to do with you or anybody else. But truly, if you have a problem with my perspective on things and it's this big of an issue, you don't have to pay to do it. Just direct message me. I do appreciate the support, though. I am somewhat obligated to address those things because it would not be fair for me to do that. Like Dalton. No comment, but thank you for the super chat. So we've talked through the interceptions tonight. Half of them, in my opinion, are his fault. My unexpert opinion. The wide receiver play tonight was okay, I thought. Some very, very, very frustrating drops from very frustrating individuals that that said they weren't going to do that this year or this week after last week. It's very frustrating. We expect more out of them, and they certainly are capable of more, which is why it frustrates us. Offensive line play tonight was horrendous. Not an individual thing, not a singling any one person out, but I think we all can look at it and say it was bad. So where are we at in this? And then I'll try to kind of find some, place to address a few of y'all's comments that are coming through, because I want to make sure we're just not reiterating the same thing over and over again. I hate Peyton Thorne. I hate Peyton Thorne. I lost my train of thought again. We've assessed Peyton. We've assessed somewhat the offensive line. We've addressed all that. So where are we at with Peyton Thorne on this? To me, it has now reached a point very similar to Bo Nix. And there was a time where a lot of these same people, I've seen you before, love to dog Bo Nix. And lo and behold, when the right situation came around for him, with the right support, he's competing for the Heisman. He's starting for an NFL team and is what was the record? The first captain. So a lot of the time, it's not the individual, much as less. Neil, no one said it was you, buddy. Neil, I think you came ready to fight tonight. I love you, man. No one, that was not a shot at anyone in particular. I'm just saying I know some of y'all and some of your things there. But the point I want to make in this is I do think that we have found ourselves at a place where very similar to where Bo was at, and a lot of people being critical about him. There came a point where Bo had to realize that you are not getting enough support from the offensive line. Your wide receivers aren't helping you out any, and your running game is really not getting the job done for either. So at some point, you as the individual say, I have to limit the problems that I am causing, the problems that I'm trying to overdo things. That's probably the simplest way to say it. Forcing the issue. When you yourself have not shown a high propensity to be able to force the issue in very important games, except for Cal last year, which is ironic. So we've reached that point with Peyton going forward. I think Peyton is now, it should be clear to Peyton. It should be clear to everybody else that the support that he is getting, which was great last week, but is inconsistent at best. Can't make excuses about that anymore. So now I think he and the staff, if they choose to continue on with him, has to really reevaluate what they ask him to do until things get better consistently. Is that fair? We can be supportive and critical at the same time, as long as it's constructively critical. Raw's Dog says, I love your channel videos. Don't get that twisted. Just don't agree with you on a lot of your opinions. By the way, hate PT. He just ain't it. Well, buddy, if you're going to be hating on someone, I don't know if that's what you meant there. It's not the place to be doing that. If you're going to just... I have my DMs open most places. If you got things that you want to hash out or anything like that, let me know. I do appreciate the love and support, though. Thank you for, honestly, I truly thank you for that part. No problem with you having a disagreeing of opinion, but I think that's the thing. Sometimes people, we all can have opinions and disagree on it, and it's okay to go back and forth about these things. All right, let's see here. He doesn't hate PT. Did I misread that? It's hard to read these things sometimes. I've got this light shining in my eye. So you're going to have to forgive me sometimes. This game has to cement Deuce wanting to come to Auburn. He has to look at it and think he can compete here early. Well, that's certainly an angle you could look at that. As tired as I am, see, I'm trying my best to keep up with some of the content or the comments, so I missed the corrections and things like that. Thumbs up for Kyle for podcasting on the spot. So it was a little delayed, but thank you. Where were we? I can't remember. I do want to go on and discuss other things about the game, but I know we have to address all this. 313 edit says, I don't understand hating on our own guys because they played bad. I think I agree with what you're saying. I'm pretty sure I do, but Robert says, this is on the coaches and the quarterback. Once again, we have to sit through a miserable season. I miss real Auburn football. Well, Robert, buddy, I don't know how I'm going to be able to help you. If your season's ruined because of one game, football is in a much, much too strong a place in your life than it needs to be, buddy. I am not happy about what I just witnessed. If you were sitting with me in the stands, you would have seen how unhappy I was. But this has not ruined my life. It has not ruined my world. And I know that's not technically what you're saying, but let's not act like the season's over with. What the pundits will tell you is especially, and that's all they would tell you after the losses of first week, season's not over. It's a season unique to any other thing with the playoff. Here's an angle that I really want to bring forward that I think a lot of people don't really want to talk about. And I think I've seen, maybe I have this correct, WT, I think, has addressed it early on in the chat, that in some people's opinion, over exuberance about last week has brought a lot of people to this place here. Last week was great. It's what was supposed to happen, and it was great to see it was happening. But some of y'all were brought back down to earth. And I was asked this week to do I don't know if you call it write-up or just give my opinion about a few questions for a Cal site, Right for Cal. Great guys, had a great time meeting. We did a podcast with one of them. It was great. The thing that I wrote in there, I think, I'm trying to remember back exactly what my wording was. Oh, it had something to do with, I hope that I'm wrong about waving the caution flag on this season. And this is not a moment to say I told you so or stuff or anything of that nature, but this is what I was afraid of. I was afraid that a lot of people hyped up the freshmen and all that stuff. And there's really not a lot you can say against them yet because they're still really young, or that's evident. But the caution flag was lowered by way too many people. Way too many people. And it shows tonight. I get it. You're heartbroken. I get it. It's embarrassing. I get it. It sucks. It does. Trust me, it sucks. But it'll get better. It will. At some point. Devin says, deep down, I figured it would be another 6-6 season. Oh, Devin. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. What I will tell you is that this loss does drastically change the perception and the trajectory of what is and isn't possible in this season. I got a lot of flack for predicting that we might lose to Kentucky on the road. Like, a lot of flack. Does that seem more likely now? I hope I'm wrong about it. But Clearly, I underestimated Callum Smith. I want to go back to this again. I really do think that even though there was a lot of respect for Justin Wilcox as a defensive mind, as the head coach of Cal, I still think it was underestimated a little bit. I really do think they are a very sound defensive team for the most part. It's hard to gauge it in only 2 games in the season, but I think they are a pretty sound program and team so far this season defensively. Tim says he had time to throw last week. Did he have time to throw this week? I don't think so. Big teams get upset. Do you think Notre Dame was going to get beat? I did not. I found that very surprising. And so, Auburn fans, you should know, and you have seen it tonight. It can always be worse. You lost to a Power 4 team, an ACC team. By the way, I saw one of their media members walking in at Tiger Walk, and they're wearing an ACC media lanyard with a Cal shirt on. Can we just like, that's weird. That's weird. That's really, really weird. Tyler with the optimism. I still have 8-4. I'll stick by my prediction, but it's going to be real difficult. Let's see here. Raw's Dog, brought back down to earth, is losing to Ole Miss or Arkansas, not Cal. Disagree with you, man. I think you disrespect Cal a little bit too much. And I'm not trying to prop them up simply so this feels better. I truly do think that we were actually, I'm completely disagree with you. Being brought back down to earth is just what it is. Doesn't matter who it was done by. When you lose to someone, you're brought back down to earth from your high and lofty place. Again, thank you for the super chat. Who gave you flack for the Kentucky thing? Oh, tons of people. You were here. You saw them. I got lambasted for predicting that we would lose to Kentucky. Like, people questioning that I needed to be continue doing this. Again, these are things that people would never say to someone's face. Anyway. Unbeaten Lake says, I'm worried Peyton's confidence is gone. If they stick with him, there won't be any improvement. And this is what I was kind of talking about a little bit earlier. I don't know how long everybody's been here. If you're just arriving in the live portion of the chat, I'd highly encourage you to go watch the full context of everything, because I don't want to rehash things over and over and over again. But what I will address with you is this, it's kind of what I was talking about, is we have reached a point that was very similar, in my opinion, with Bo Nix. I am not saying that Peyton Thorne is going to have the same trajectory of Bo Nix. He doesn't have the time to do so, frankly. But I think we're at a very similar place. And so confidence plays into that. He knows. He's heard every bit of what y'all say about him. Those of you that are openly critical of him online and stuff like that. Again, you're allowed to come here and share your opinions, but don't be shocked that these people, that they see what y'all write and stuff like that. And I would encourage you to ask if that doesn't bother you at least a little bit. You really do need to check yourself. Your goal in life shouldn't be to make someone feel less than. It really shouldn't. All right, let's see here. Deshaun Harris. People was too hype over that Alabama A&M. Cal is a senior stack. I expected them to come out confident like they did last year. Again, I don't think enough credit can be given to them for coming into this environment and putting themselves in a position to win. I want to go back to a moment in the game that if Kayin Lee picks off a interception in his hands, this is a much different ball game. If I'm not mistaken, we are at a point at that game where it's like 8 minutes left. He picks that off, and there was nobody, unless what's the quarterback's name? Mendoza has got speed greater than Kane Lee. He ain't catching him on that angle. It's a tie game at that point. They don't score that gut-wrenching long run, and they were due for one of those. I looked to the people on the right and said, well, just wait. They've got a big play coming up here at some point. It's going to take the air out of this place. It's a much different ball game. Let's try to say something good about this, though. The defense in the first half, horrible. Not good. The defense in the second half, outstanding. Was it perfect? No. But the defense in the second half, there needs to be some more discussion around that. Credit goes to DJ Durkin for some adjustments, for the players getting up when the offense really wasn't getting the job done for them, staying up, giving them more opportunities than probably they all deserved based on the performance on the field. Credit to them for making the adjustments that they did. That needs to be brought up tonight. AU Ob4 Soul says, with the way they were blitzing, we should have run more wide receiver screens, slants, and reserve. It's very easy for us to sit back and say we should have done this. It's not so easy when it's easy to say it. It's not as easy as it seems to do. I get that from our vantage point out here at the game or online or on TV or online, wherever you're watching, we've got the 30,000 foot view. It may seem like that may have worked. You may have something there, but always keep in mind, it is very easy to say that, much more to implement it. I want to say something positive about the game. The AU Marching Band is still undefeated. That's about it. No, the defense does need a lot of credit for what they did in the second half. We had no business keeping that game within striking distance, and it's a lot of distance, and it's a lot to do with them. It gets tough. We got Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, UGA, Bama in the schedule. It gets tougher every week. The great thing is you get to go back out there at practice, figure out what didn't work. And it's not as simple as just changing someone sometimes. Some of y'all need to realize that. And figure out what you got to do to make this a more successful season. Edward, and always comes back to recruiting. It can help and it can hurt every single game. So some people will assume, and I assume this is where you're at, Edward, with the very funny avatar face, that this will hurt recruiting because we lost. Well, someone made the point earlier. It may show certain positions we need help. It also, in a win, could show, look at all the talent this team has. It's going to be a while for me to be able to crack the starting lineup at this position that I'm at. It can all go hand in hand. I'm more upset how the world felt like we were going to run over Cal. There was a lot of people that did that. Wild Hawk with let me see if we understand this a little more. I feel like Coach lacks effort in smaller games. In 2014, we had a top 5 matchup with Ole Miss. Close win. Next week, Ole Miss loses to unranked Arkansas. Wildly inconsistent performances. I am not understanding this comment. I was going to understand it, but yeah. Kyle, how did the crowd act during the game? It was a pretty decent crowd. Stayed in it for the most part. I'm a little disappointed with the amount of people that left before we started making, I'm going to call it a small comeback, because it didn't amount to much. A little disappointed in that. I get people have kids and priorities and stuff, but come on. There's 6 minutes left in this game. You've seen crazier things happen. A lot of blaming of Peyton Thorne. A lot of very unintelligent discussions about Peyton Thorne. Again, fine with constructive criticism. Fine with that, 100%. There was plenty of that to go around. But I think some of you said nobody in this chat is saying that they hate Peyton Thorne. Sometimes you don't have to say it. The way people say it, some people just flat out say it, and I heard it tonight. And I'm probably sure some of you who've been here in the chat, no one in particular, so nobody get their feathers ruffled, have probably echoed some very similar sentiments about him. So the amount of the hate, whether direct or implied, it's time for it to chill. It's old. It's tired. Frankly, I'm bored with it. It's just not a productive conversation anymore to me. Russell, what's going on, man? I don't know if you've been here all the time. 10 games to drastically improve War Eagle, and may God bless you. Love that. Devin, I think I remember if I've got 1,000 comments coming through. So just everybody keep in mind tonight that I may miss it or something like that. I'm doing my best to kind of come through as many of them as I can, and we're getting behind in chat. So if it's something you really want my take on, post it again. If I can get to it, I will. If not, post it in our Conquer Club, and I certainly will get back to you. Edward wants season predictions. My prediction is still 8-4, although it's going to be very difficult to accomplish that, in my opinion, now at this point, but I will hold to it. I'm not really one to change my prediction because it's my prediction, and that's like to adjust that. It's kind of me just moving the goalpost to make myself look better or worse. But maybe what you're asking is, do I have less expectations now? As I said, I think it's very difficult. They just made it very difficult on themselves to accomplish what was my prediction. Neil, and I get that you don't hate anyone, but let's keep in mind how our actions sometimes come across. And I am annoyed as well. I'm annoyed that we continue to put our quarterbacks in situations where they are set up, in some cases, to throw interceptions that weren't their fault. But I'm also mad when our quarterbacks throw interceptions that are clearly their fault, which I've addressed all of them tonight at some point. Unbeaten Lake says, I guess let me bring it up. I don't understand why we struggle to improve quarterbacks. The only QB who had improved after their first season was Nick Marshall. Everyone else regressed. That's actually not true. Nick regressed in his second season. It's true. I mean, he did not have as good of a season this second season. Now, he had an amazing first season. He did. He had an amazing first season. So it's really hard to progress when it was amazing. Still love that dude and still think he is the most underrated quarterback we've ever had. You're seeing the ghost again? No. Unless there's someone outside the car. That's even scarier. All right, let's see here. Okay, I think I see Devin's question again. Just curious if you think Hugh should have benched Peyton Thorne like Harsin did with Bo in that Georgia Southern game. That game, Bo played much better. It's a good question. I guess not. I know people hate when anybody does this, but I'm sure content creators. What makes you think it would have been better with Hank in? Not you. Well, yes, you, Devin, but also anybody. What makes you think it would have been better with Holden in? What makes you think it would have been better with Walker in? What, other than everybody's disdain for Peyton Thorne and what you saw in a bowl game and some of us in an open practice and what you've read online about and written about them? The coaches will put out who is best equipped to win the game. Period. Said. Done with. Harsin felt that Bo wasn't best equipped to finish that Georgia State game. I think I knew what you meant. And it just hit me that you said Southern. And he was right. Bo was not best equipped that game to win the game. TJ Finley was. Some of y'all need to remember that when you joke on TJ Finley. That and that Iron Bowl performance when he was on one leg. I don't think it does anything for us if he benches Thorne in this game. I truly don't. I think the lack of the running game for the majority of the game, the lack of block. Here's the thing. So you change the quarterback. Does it matter if the blocking's the same? Does it? Does it matter? Here's the thing that I think a lot of people would do well to do. Go listen to Hugh Freeze's press conferences. He's talked a lot about the quarterbacks. He's talked a lot about what they think their strengths, their weaknesses are. One of the things that, if I'm remembering correctly, and there's always a chance I'm not, that he was said about Hank, he's a gamer. He's that's what he's called him, which I would agree with that from based on what I've seen. But he struggles. Maybe struggles, I shouldn't say. He needs to be better about protecting himself, which means making adjustments at the line to shift the blocking, change the play if it's going to put yourself in a position to be in a situation. So in a night like tonight, where Peyton Thorne is and has been said that he is much better at that, and it still was that bad, you think it was going to be better? I don't. I do not think it would be better. But whoever runs out there next Saturday and for the rest of the season is going to have my support regardless. The question is, can all of you say the same if it's Peyton Thorne? I don't think some of you can. Appreciate your thoughts. Not saying it would have worked, just something I was thinking about. And I think it's a good question to ask, because I think this is why I'm plenty of you have had great takes even tonight or over the times y'all have been here. But I think this is the type of discussions that I want to give props to about here. Using examples in the past, not just to prop your argument about, for this instance, the disdain towards Peyton Thorne, but to have a thoughtful discussion about it. That was a great point to bring up about changing in that game and how it worked. People don't want to give Harsin credit. I don't know that I feel the same way. What I remember about that game and Bo in that game is Bo was just literally for the entire game out of control. It was probably one of his worst games. But tonight, I don't think that Peyton, when I say this, some people are going to hear just what they want to hear and go off of that, was out of control the entire night. I think what Peyton slipped into was old bad habits that had developed while he was here because of situations that we have put, not just him, but other quarterbacks in too, and then tried to force the issue. And then on top of that, somebody else brought this up too, lacking confidence on top of that. Kyle, we've been through some terrible years over the last 4 years. Something has to change. I'm trying very hard right now to not say my favorite phrase. Some of you know what that is, and I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to be real good. Zach says, and I hope you're not a proponent of this, sir. He says, unless this is a big turnaround this season, I see us going through another coaching change at the end of the season. If Auburn does that, they will become the laughing stock of the SEC. So I hope you're not advocating for it, because if they go through another coaching change, regardless of what happens this season, outside of extenuating circumstances, this program will be Vanderbilt. And that's not hyperbole. Let's see here. It's crazy how the game turned after the first touchdown. Nobody's giving Peyton credit for throwing a dart in there in a very tight window. A very difficult situation. Tyler, I'm going to be good. How many, by the way, Tyler, how many accounts do you have? When the O-line let him down, PT fell. It's his old bad habits and only made things worse. I think the coaches should have picked up on that, though. And that may be more of a good point for like what Devin was asking earlier. There's a discussion to have around that. How did we reach that point? I don't think we had. I still think Peyton gave us the best opportunity. But it wasn't enough. Let's see here. Fine. I'll say it. It didn't have to be this way. I'll sing it for you. It did not have to be this way. Y'all made me say it. Nobody else. All right. We have gone on for 46 minutes dealing with the Peyton issue, all that stuff. The only other things that we have addressed are credit to Cal. We did talk. I tried to shift y'all a little bit to give him some credit where credit is due to the defense. You wouldn't head that way. So I guess I can't do that. I'll take a few more comments and questions just for the sake of being a completionist. I do have to talk about stats a little bit tonight. No point in going through Thorns because we've already talked through it enough. Rushing tonight, Hunter, 12 attempts for 68 yards. He really picked up as the game went on. Still not enough. A very bad start for him, but was not getting a lot of good blocking either. Peyton actually was probably our best, most consistent runner tonight, and still not enough with his one touchdown. Jeremiah Cobb gets a rush. Damari Alston gets a rush. Who fumbled the ball? Was it Damari? Can anybody confirm or deny that? Let's see. Maybe I can pull it up in his individual stats. Who fumbled the ball tonight? Somebody in the chat. Was it Jarquez? See, I was at that moment very upset, so I didn't look who it was. Jarquez. Nobody's giving Jarquez any flack tonight? Woo! We should. No, look, Jarquez tonight I thought did well for the most part with what he was worked with. That fumble's a backbreaker. Can't have those happen from those type of guys in those situations. Just like you can't have Peyton Thorne throwing it up to Cam, I think it was Cam Coleman, on that third interception, which I 100% agree was an abysmal decision. Yelled at the instant I saw him look that way. Said, don't do it. Don't do it. Can't have your leaders making those types of decisions. Same goes for Jarquez. He's better than that. He'll get it right. I think I said that, but we're going to still talk about it. And Thorne did not lose the game either. Some of y'all need to realize that. Thorne did not lose the game. The team lost the game. And that includes the coaches too. Some of y'all echoed that. Let's talk about this in a holistic view. He felt terrible. I'm sure he did. And he knows better. Just like Rivaldo last week talked about his drops he had in game one and said it wouldn't happen again. It did, but I still have very high expectations and high hopes for him. I believe in Rivaldo, and I think he's going to get it together. All right, a couple more stats here. Receivers tonight, I think this is indicative of how the night was going. Hunter gets the most receptions tonight, 3 for 11 yards. Your best receiver is Cam Coleman, 2 for 53. Lambert gets the touchdown in that tight window. Fairweather with 2, Robert Lewis with 2, Frazier with 1. Oh, I forgot Frazier got it. Malcolm Simmons got in the mix. Damari got in the mix. So the ball was spread around fair enough tonight. It just was not proficient enough tonight. And a lot of that had to do with mistakes, especially towards the end, made by Peyton. But throughout the whole game, the very abysmal blocking that was had the entire game. What other stats here? We'll round out our conversation. Defense. Your best tackler tonight, Keldrick Falk. What a sack he had. Those 2 sacks, and I think it was towards the end of the first half. I think that was like, if I have my timelines correctly, whenever those 2 sacks back to back that led to them having to punt, that to me was the moment where things shifted for the defense, from them saying, all right, we are not playing well. The offense is getting progressively worse. If we're going to have a shot at this thing, we have got to lock that down. That took on the mentality, I think, of their defensive coordinator, and the emotion rose. It's not that the effort rose, but the results of the effort rose. So credit to like Keldrick Falk, especially 8 tackles tonight, I think is what we said. 3 tackles for lost sack. He's your defensive player of the game. Jaron Thompson had a pretty good night too. 6 tackles, 1 pass breakup. Keontae, if I remember correctly, had a few problems tonight, especially with the drop punt. What's it with the number 0, dropping the punts? Y'all remember that? Lots of other people. So there's actually quite a few people with like 5+ tackles tonight. Trying to see if there's anything else of note. Sacks, 3 for Falk, 2.5 for McLeod. Champ Anthony with a sack. Austin Keys with a sack. Half a sack for Blockton. So need, as much as there's frustration, there is anger around this situation. We need to give the credit where credit is due to the defense tonight. WT, I will be interested to see how the coaches retool and shift for the rest of the year. This is certainly a reshift point. I think Freeze said it best. I have not watched his presser yet, but I have heard some of the quotes and such from it. And I think one of his first statements was, well, I thought we were further along than we were. I think that's an indicator right now that it is a being. I think someone took issue earlier with me saying being brought back down to earth. No, this is a being brought back down to earth place. You ain't as good as you thought you were. You weren't as improved as you thought you were. Why is that? Scream all the people that just want to say it's only Peyton Thorne. It's a much bigger problem than that. Because if Hank Brown comes in there and gets hurried the same way he is, when he already, as coaches said, has a propensity not be able to shift his protection where he needs to be, it could be much worse. Holden got beat out by Hank. So what does that tell you? He's obviously struggling in some areas. Walker has not won snaps from either of those 3. So what does that tell you? Coaches aren't dumb. They're putting the best out there. How many times does AU have to be brought down to earth until they finally realize it didn't have to be this way? Sorry, y'all brought that on tonight. That's all on me. What's it going to take to fix the line? Time. Long time. As much as I have been very critical, most of you know this, over the year, not about individuals, but as a collective, the offensive line over the last too many years. I have said several times that they have progressively gotten better in small increments every year. Small increments. What hasn't happened is this big jump that we need it to be to have support for any quarterback we throw out there. Well, what's it going to take? Time. Continually good recruiting, continual good coaching, until you develop a core group that can be a strong group together for a while, stack another one behind them, like every 2 years, and stack and stack and stack. That's how it's done, in my opinion. You don't have to agree with that. That's how I've seen it work before. This group that's coming up, Connor Liu is the first one to break through into that. Tyler Johnson is breaking through into that group. Those offensive linemen that are either true sophomores, redshirt freshmen, those ones are the ones I think that are going to be what pushes us forward as an offensive line eventually. But we need more of them to be ready to go to push through as a unit together. Connor's there. Tyler's getting there, it seems like. Give it time for the others. Hey, Auburn's had a decade to build an O-line. It tells you how far it fell. I do not idolize Gus, but I do value him, and I do think, as I've made it very clear here, that we were idiots to fire him, and proof's in the pudding. No one can refute that at this point. If you're refuting that the wrong decision was made based on what the current results are, in fact, I'm gonna go this far. I don't know if that individual is watching right now, but it's a family member. After the game and all the hype, and they said, he asked me, would I ever stop saying that or take it back, that it didn't have to be this way? I said, if Hugh Freeze wins a national championship, what he certainly could do within his first 4 years, I will publicly denounce that statement and everything I've ever said about it. Why? Because I don't care if I was wrong. My team wins if I was wrong. Some of y'all, when I say y'all, this is not directed at any one person, so quit getting your feathers ruffled. Some of y'all love to come beat your chest when your team fails. I think that's a pretty poor reflection on you. Let's see here. All right, now we're getting into stuff about Sean White. All that stuff. Okay, we're moving into not that any of the other conversations aren't worth having, but we don't normally do an hour on these, but I figured we were going to have one of these moments tonight. I knew we needed to discuss it. I will take a few more comments, questions, especially those that we haven't addressed yet on this show. Go ahead and get them in now. Let me give you a couple reminders. I haven't pissed off enough of y'all tonight. Don't want to come back. We do have some other content that's upcoming very soon for you all. Tomorrow night, Austin and I are back together. We've confirmed that. Episode 92 is happening tomorrow. We will discuss in one of our big topics this weekend, of course, a little bit about the game. We may have a little bit more therapy, but we're going to talk about basketball's full schedule now. And there's some other big topics, even in Auburn Potpourri, that are going to be interesting to talk about with the new multi-facility coming to the back of the north end zone. A lot of things to discuss this week, so don't miss that. Is the next scheduled thing. Wednesday night show as well. Don't have a cue card ready for you, but that's the live call-in show. I'd love to hear some of y'all's hot takes. Come back and let's discuss this some more on Wednesday nights, where you can call in and put some of your hot takes to voices or faces. Nobody seems to want to do that. Can't wait to hear Austin's thoughts tonight on it tonight. You know what I love about Austin is obviously, he's a very honest person, but he's also very measured, probably more so than I am. We'll see if that maintains tomorrow. We need Tom Brady. Put Tom in there at quarterback and he'll get us out of this. Tom Brady couldn't get us out of this. I promise you. Kyle, I always take your comments as personal and directed at me. It's what drives me onward. Now, it's funny. You know, I pride myself on not being honest about how I feel about things and trying my best to support those opinions. And I've been wrong before. And I feel like I've come back to you guys and said that I've been wrong. And as I think Roz Dog wanted to kind of do tonight, say that I was wrong about it. And if we're going to just take, you know, certain little aspects, you can certainly make it that way. But this is not about being right or wrong. This is about what's best for Auburn. It may be a change at quarterback. It may not be. That's the coach's decisions. And if you can't accept the coach's decision, I would love to get you to fork over some money to buy him out, go hire a new one, or at least be man enough and woman enough to go say it to his face. because he ain't going to say it to his face. Why are you saying it online? Ernie, what comment do you want me to address? What comment do you want me to address? When those comments are made, you definitely get them addressed, because as you can tell in the chat, it's slowed down now, so I can definitely, cover more of you guys' stuff. Whenever a comment is not addressed, it's for a couple of reasons. A, I missed it. It's highly possible on nights like this, especially earlier on in the chat. B, it wasn't relevant to what we were talking about at the time, or it didn't fit into what we were discussing, or somebody else had brought it up. Or C, it was inappropriate. It's one of the three. I'm willing to bet I probably just missed it. But that's how that goes here. That's how this goes. So sorry I missed it probably. And same for in the crib. So nobody is being ignored without cause tonight. There have been people that have been ignored tonight because they brought nothing constructive to the conversation at all. They just want to beat their chests about they were right about their team suffering. That's it. Kyle is getting up there. There's too much that he catches these days. What? It's going over my head at this point. Are Orford and Deuce flipping after this performance? He in the crib. Sorry. Most people have been, I don't know how long you've been here. People in terms of watching our content, people who have been here know what exactly I'm about to say. I personally do not worry about the decisions that haven't been made by 17 and 18-year-old boys. It's borderline weird to me how much we obsess about that. I'm not saying that recruiting is not important. That's what people jump to then. What I'm saying is my concerns are about this team currently and what we know we have coming in. If they decide to flip, commit, whatever, then I'm going to certainly talk about them. But they have no bearing on me until they commit. Of course, I'm aware of what the tell is about them out there. But I honestly have no interest in fretting about it. I used to a lot. And it became so unhealthy that there was a moment in time where something happened in recruiting and I realized, you know what? I need to stop this. And I would encourage a lot of you to do the same. Roz Dog says, you're cool, man. I still like you and we'll watch. Just don't agree with you months of the time. Months of the time, Roz Dog. Well, it's a miracle that you keep watching the show. I appreciate it. We have to keep Coleman and Tom. That's a conversation I'm willing to have. Yeah, like that's a legitimate discussion point. But also on the flip side of that, Thomas, to insinuate that one game and one loss is going to be any legitimate threat about that, it's just too much. It's too hyperbolic. But it's at least more of a relevant conversation than whether someone's going to flip or not. And that's a good point to wait till the signature on the paper, but it's even not a done deal then. But I have to talk about them once they're committed. Like for me, not to have any discussions about recruiting. That's why I always say that I love to talk about that aspect and not the other. As I just said, he in the crib. I'm not worried. You shouldn't be worried either. No one should be worried. If you are worried about anybody transferring after one game, you have, in my opinion, put this team, this season, and your expectations on too high a pedestal. I think some of y'all need to wrap your minds around that. It's one game. a long season. I'm going to use the pundits' words, in a very different year where anything is possible with this playoff situation. And I never said we were going to the playoffs. But if you're writing off the season because of one loss, you have made this team and this football a god. And you need to really think about that. Not saying that anybody, you or anybody else has talked about that, has done that. But some of you probably have. I'm just tired of my UJ neighbors making fun of me being an Auburn guy. Listen, they can't hurt me because grown men bark like dogs. So why does it bother you? Anytime that I get flack from a UGA fan, I just look at them and just, it's not even worth engaging with them. You bark and you're a grown man. Bryant knows. Bryant knows. we have definitely reached the point in this show where we're all just like saying anything at this point. I think it's Under Armour football. But guys will probably need to hurry and switch to Nike. That's it. That's it. We need to have another great game next week, so everyone will be saying how great we are and all that stuff. That's funny. All right, Thomas wants to get things fired up again. It looks like it's not that; it's the fact that Thorne is a crappy quarterback. No, he's not. He's not playing well right now. He's not a crappy quarterback. And again, these are things that you would never say to his face. You would never walk up to Peyton Thorne and say, "You are a crappy quarterback." You wouldn't, because reasonable people, even if you feel like it is your duty to say that, you will say it a different way. So don't say it here. And they don't want to continue to play for a guy who can't get them the ball. It's not one loss, guy. It's 5 losses last year in Thorne. It's funny that as Peyton Thorne is leaving the field, saw several players, his wide receivers, go up to him, put their arm around him, slap him on the butt, and obviously walking off in solidarity with him. What I'll always find very interesting, and I'm going to give one player a shout out because I saw him. Camden Brown. Camden Brown went from being everyone's darling to no one talks about him anymore. This kid's got every excuse to check out, to even probably find a reason to be mad, maybe. But he runs towards Peyton Thorne in the field, and I think it was AL.com put the video out. Grabs him, puts his arm around him, slaps him on the butt, starts talking to him a little bit. Be a Camden Brown. Don't be a stereotypical Auburn fan that all they do is complain about the quarterback. Be a Camden Brown. I promise you, you will be a much better person. You'll be a much happier person if you'll be a Camden Brown. I've been very critical about Camden Brown. I'm very cautious when I'm critical about players because I know they see these things, and I try to have very substantive points. Camden Brown has dropped so many passes, and I've openly talked about that. It's not that he lost respect as a human being ever from me, but tonight when I saw him do that, walking off the field, made a beeline over to his quarterback, who had arguably one of the worst nights of his life, of his career as a quarterback. Be a Camden Brown. I promise. If you can learn to be a Camden Brown, you'll be a much happier person. Do I think Walker White or Hank Brown will start next year, or we'll get a transfer quarterback? Still way too early to tell that. I mean, I think it's just easy things to go with what it appears right now, that it's Hank Brown's job to lose. And I'd love to still have Holden in the mix, but I think him losing that position he had in seniority speaks for itself, and I hate that for him. Just watching Thorne's playmaking decision stresses me out. It also stresses me out watching the line fold like a paper napkin, forcing him to make decisions a little bit quicker than he was designed to. Have a holistic view of it. Were the DBs struggling today? I think they were early. There were some pretty deep balls given up early, which is part of the reason that we clamped down a little bit and why I want to give credit to the defense tonight. But that's been something that's been talked about by the coaches being a concern. But whatever was going on, I think the pressure tonight we put on the team as a whole, the quarterback, in the second half really helped all aspects out. Thomas, you're borderline. You've always kind of misbehaved a little bit, and I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I've kind of considered. I'll just say it. I'm muting you tonight. Maybe not tonight, but some other times. You're kind of pushing that. Look, just stop. Just stop. You don't have to agree, like Raw's dog did earlier several times tonight, but just stop. It's boring. It's old. The point of it is be a good person, be a good teammate. And I know you're not a teammate. He didn't go over there to tell him that. You know he didn't. If you saw the same video I didn't, let's end this. Just stop. If you got nothing else productive to say, it's time to go to bed tonight, wake up in the morning, and hopefully we can have something different to talk about. Let's see here. Building for the future, you're going to enjoy the ride. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one way to look at it. I don't know if enjoying the ride is really going right now. Like we just wouldn't turn around for some reason when the ball was right in the air. Yes, that is a good criticism of early the defensive back play, not turning their heads around. And Keontae Scott, I think, did it a couple of times too, which was very sad to see that happen. So I think one of the beat writers said it earlier, something about a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes. I think that's a good characterization of what happened in some areas tonight. Oh, Neil, don't spam. Come on, don't spam. You know that's not relevant to the conversation right now. And I don't have an answer for you on that. Did that short field goal give anyone less stress today that could have been? Oh, yeah. It was one of those moments that it didn't click until it was in the air and I saw it. Oh, this is not going to get it. And then I realized, oh, no. This could be really bad. Lord. All right, Thomas wants to say, he says he has a valid question. What happens is now how does Freeze says to a lineman, hey, you're not performing well, so you're not going to play, but continue to allow Thorne to play with his performances? This is a valid question. So what you're assuming, Thomas, is that the other quarterbacks have done enough to show that they deserve to be out there other than Peyton Thorne. And you don't know that. You don't. You do not know that. You think you do. You don't. You're not at practice. You're not in the meetings. Someone's going to quote the whole Harsin thing when he said that on that. But there's truth in that. You don't know. And I am pointing this at you. You and anybody else that says that does not know. The coach's job is to win the game. He will put out there who he believes gives them the best chance to win. Harsin did that, as was brought up with Georgia State. And he was right. Bo wasn't the one to get the job done that night. But it didn't mean that he wasn't for the rest of the season. He was until he got hurt. It's a valid question, but you're conveniently ignoring the other part of the discussion point. All right. So I think that's enough with that. Can we have, I know I said this a little while ago. I'll take a few more. Can we have a rematch with Cal, Penn State in the near future, when we're actually good? I kind of felt like that tonight. The whiteout games with these Power 5, 4 now conference teams are just not working out at home. Breakdowns across the board. Kevlar with the comment of the night. I put the star on it here on my platform. I don't think it does anything on the screen for you. This is all that needs to be said here. And he's including that Thorne in this thing too. Breakdowns across the board. Bad game. Bad game. We talked about him a little bit earlier. Tyler says, I do that because I know this is my friend Tyler. Falk is a future first round draft pick. He might be. I really like him. Hank Brown has done well when put in the game. He did well last week, and did he not? So did Peyton. So did Peyton. Could it be it was the opponent? Probably. Most likely. All right. I am going to go. I got places to be, things to do, things to go cry about. How much y'all hate me, in my opinions. But I appreciate you getting here. I knew this was going to be a pretty testy stream. But thank you guys so much for being back here. Those of you that choose to come back and put up with me and my shenanigans and let me share my opinions. Let me talk a little bit about you all's opinions. It does mean a lot to me that you all are here and talk about it, even when we disagree on some things. And that's why I enjoy doing this. It's part of the reason that I love hanging out with you all. Again, you all are the best little family within the Auburn family. And I do mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for being here, spending some time with me. And until I talk to you again, War Eagle.